Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in again. My name is Julie Busby. I am the founder of Busby Group Real Estate over at Compass Real Estate. And I am doing a series called Coast to Coast where I chat with some of my friends around the country. And this is one of my dear friends. Cara and I met years ago through Sports Star relocation. Goodness, I want to say it was like close to 8 years ago. I always relate it back to when I had kids. So I think it was like close to 8 years ago we met. And Cara Ameer is joining us today. What is really cool is that she is in two marketplaces to tell our clients about and friends. So she's in Orange County in California, as well as Jacksonville, Florida, like the Northeast region of Florida. So Cara, welcome.
Thanks so much, Julie, for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm excited to have you. I feel like we have so much to cover, especially with not only two marketplaces, but two amazing marketplaces that people want to be in these days. So I'm sure we will have a lot of people tuning in to hear some highlights of your marketplaces. So thank you. I appreciate it. So I thought we'd just dive in because we do have a lot to cover and find out. So why don't you just share a little bit as clients are tuning in, to tell us a little bit how when you started your career and how, and maybe what marketplace that was when you started.
Sure. Well, I got into real estate when we relocated to Northeast Florida in late 2001 due to my husband's job. He had a job opportunity with the PGA Tour. So we were actually living in Chicago before
Love
up
it.
to that point. And I was working as a paralegal prior to that. So I started to get interested in real estate when we put our house on the market in Chicago. And what did we do? Like a lot of people, oh, we tried for sale by honor.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness,
And
Kara.
yes, and we were young and dumb and naive, and there were other houses on our street that were going for sale by owner, so it was like, oh, why not? And that process really taught me how much we didn't know, and we
Yes.
did end up listing it to sell it because this was right around the time 9/11 happened.
Mm,
We were trying to sell it before 9/11, and then that happened, and it was like crickets.
mm.
So, and so I became enamored with it then, and then through our house hunting process in Florida, the agent that worked with us, I was just enamored by her. I just was so just in admiration of her. She just was so polished and so professional, and just seemed to really have this down pat. Very efficient with her time, and so I started asking her some questions about what's the process. And while my husband was down in Florida, I was still in Chicago, and I actually sent him to a real estate career seminar that one of the local brokerages were doing because they have a real estate school to just
Sure.
get some basic information for me so I could understand what was involved.
Wow. Wow. So 20 years. You've
20,
been
yeah, it's been it's
21.
amazing. Yeah, time just flies. So I got my license late 2001. There's a lot you have to do, as when you get your license. You just don't start hitting the street. There's a lot of training and other things and preparation. And then was able to, by the beginning of 2002, the new year, hit the ground running, doing all those fun things, open houses, floor time, which is really not in existence anymore,
I know.
door knocking. So that's northeast, that's the Northeast Florida side of my licensure. In
Amazing.
California, I got my license in 2017, but I didn't activate it because I knew, due to my husband's job being in television production and whatnot, uh, there was more opportunities in what he's in and sports related out in California. So I wanted to get ahead of it because the California licensing process is way more involved than Florida, where Florida is like one book. This was like 6 books.
Yes.
So I had, so that was, doing that all virtually online. And that was, when you're working full time in your other real estate job, that's not something you can just take your whole day up doing. So that was a lot of late nights going through all those courses and the exams. And I did have to fly into the state to take the state test, of course. So
Sure. So in 2017, you got licensed out in Orange County, and you've been, what would you say, between the two marketplaces, really actively involved for the past 3 years or so?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, as the pandemic came on, was sort of the beginning of my
Sure.
bi-coastal status, if you will.
Sure. I love it. I love that, while obviously the pandemic has been terrible, I do love that it's opened up a new avenue for so many different careers and even including real estate. So I think it's amazing that you can be bi-coastal in two marketplaces. So I love that.
Yeah, I
That's
think
awesome.
that thanks to that, we would not be here, right? I mean,
Agreed.
this tragedy aside, and why not? I mean, I used to think, because I thought when I got into real estate, I'm like, oh wow, what did I do? I mean, am I going to be in this location forever? What if something happens and I'm not?
Right.
You
Right.
know, I mean, we're people too, and
Right. So
you
true.
don't know where your spouse's job may take you or where life takes you for various reasons. So why should you have to give up the business that you built?
Agreed. Agreed. I love it. Well, tell me a little bit about each marketplace as people are tuning in. What's neat about this series that I'm doing is it's a lot of Chicagoans, of course, because my business is in Chicago, but they like to, clients are liking to tune in and saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about a potential move down the road or a second home." Both your regions could easily be a second home market or full time as well. So I'd love to just share a little bit about trends that you've been seeing in your marketplaces, Florida and Orange County. So what's been going on in the last, I guess, last year or so in those worlds?
Well, first I'll say we love our Chicagoans because they come down to Northeast Florida, and I do see plenty of Illinois license plates out here in Orange
Yes.
County. So I think they kind of go,
Love it.
yeah, to
Yes.
both places. But Northeast Florida was largely an undiscovered market up until about 2018, and that was largely due to the tax reform with the mortgage interest deduction cap,
Right.
property tax deduction caps. So it was definitely more of a sleeper sort of word of mouth. When people would, you'd connect with people that were from out of the area, the first question I would always say is, oh, if they weren't coming for a job and it was elective, oh, how did you hear about Jacksonville or Ponte Vedra Beach or some of these other areas? And a lot of people, it was because they had a friend that moved, they had come down and visited, and they realized, that it was this little hidden gem of a coastal seaside community. And at the time, they were amazed at price wise what you could get for your money.
Right. Right.
The pandemic, of course, like so many places that are in good weather and coastal and all of that, blew our market up. We have long had an influx of people from the Northeast, typically. New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, mid-Atlantic states as well, Maryland, Midwest, Chicago, Michigan, Ohio, some from the West, California, Arizona, but we've long had that Northeast pipeline, also people from Atlanta. But
Mm.
obviously, with the work from home and the flexibility, that just fast forwarded all these people from the Northeast, a lot of them in the financial industry, that had the green light, could work from anywhere. And so they said, I'm out of the cold weather and I'm done with that. And I want to go where there's, warmer pastures. And at the time, I mean, still comparing, depending on the budget, comparing Northeast Florida to South Florida, it was still a lot more affordable.
Wow. How much would you say your value has increased over the last 2 years? Yeah,
Easily, depending on where the coastal areas have experienced the highest amount of appreciation, easily 40%.
I was thinking 40.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It,
Wow.
yeah.
And then for those tuning in who may not know, Jacksonville is also where the PGA, the headquarters are, correct? So
Yeah.
that also is really a neat dynamic of the town as well.
Yes. The PGA Tour is headquartered there. There's also a lot of transportation and logistics companies that are based there, CSX, railways, railroad companies there. We're
Wow.
also anchored by 2 military bases. So we have a very heavy presence of people continually relocating in and out of the area that are with the Navy.
Oh,
Uh,
wonderful.
so, and you also get people that come back to the area that want to retire there because they did spend time when they were active duty, and they always told themselves they wanted to come back to Jacksonville when they retired from the military. So it is a very healthy market in that aspect, because we, and I've had the honor and the benefit of helping a lot of the Navy relocate to our area
That's
as well.
I'm glad you said that. I know we've talked about this at one point, but my husband went to the Naval Academy and got his flight, or he went through flight school at Pensacola. So we have a lot of friends in the region and may go back to the region. So it's good for them to hear this too. So that's great. So tell us a little bit about Orange County. What's been going on there? Would you say similar increase in value? What are you seeing there?
So Orange County also boomed tremendously, depending on where and what, 20 to 40%. And Orange County is largely, a lot of people don't know where it is. They think it's part of Los Angeles,
Right.
because people are saying, "Oh, you're moving to Los Angeles." No, well, where is that exactly? So, Orange County was really developed as a bedroom community of LA.
Oh,
For the commuters. But then Irvine, which we do have an airport, there's a lot of corporate offices and companies based in Irvine as well. So, but Orange County is not only just a suburban community, it has a huge coastal element. If you've watched anything on television,
yes,
the show, there's a lot of them right now.
yes,
And so it's a mix of, full-time residents, kind of like Florida, but also second homeowners. And during the pandemic, we saw a lot of people coming down from the Bay Area, Los Angeles, people coming out from New York, New Jersey, also, Chicago as well, trying to flee those cities and just
right.
wanting more. They want lifestyle. People today are very attuned to lifestyle and wellness and amenities, the ability to be
Absolutely.
able to go outside and, have a pretty place to walk and not
Yes.
be, trapped in a house with nowhere to go. So that was huge, to be able to at least be out here and have the benefit of fabulous weather and beaches to take advantage of if, a lot of things weren't necessarily open. So,
Wow. And tell me about, so what is the commute time to LA if someone were to commute to LA?
well, that all
Traffic,
depends
it
on
depends.
where, and it all depends on time of day, right? But like up to the airport at LAX, that depending on time of day, that could take you 50 minutes. It could take you, an hour 10, an hour 20.
Okay,
It's all timing. It's very important with LA knowing what time of day to, the hour you should leave. And there's a lot of flexible work arrangements here. And
sure.
obviously, not everybody has to be in the office. So usually if you leave, either really early or you go after 9, you can kind of bypass a lot of that congestion, but you want to try to leave in the afternoon before 4,
Sure.
as well.
That's good. It's just good to hear how close it is because, like you said, I think most people don't realize where exactly Orange County is. So that's great. And I mean, I love Orange County. When I lived in San Diego, we were, and what's neat is there's so many personalities. There's different
Yes,
towns, and they all their own unique personality.
they are. And I mean, and also just San Diego. I mean, there's a lot of people who live in Orange County that it's an easy commute, relatively speaking, that way. I mean,
Sure,
people are going every different direction. And we'll go down that way for dinner. I mean, Carlsbad and Encinitas is,
I love
right
it.
outside my door. But yeah, there's a lot of flavor to all these different places. And that just is what makes it fun, is there's such a magnitude of things to do and places to go. It never
That's
gets
neat.
old.
What about values there? Have you seen a similar 40% increase, or what would you say it's closer to?
Things really skyrocketed here over the last couple years, because you had people from the Bay Area that were coming back,
Mm,
certainly more expensive, maybe double the price, coming in with
right.
cash. Los Angeles as well. So that really drove the prices up. We had the crazy multiple offers. We had people offering, several $100,000 over asking price, no contingencies, all cash, all this craziness. Uh, but of course, the party is over a little bit. All good
Slowing
things
down a
must come
little.
to an end. We're kind of leveling off, but that's happening in Florida too.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Is that like, what are you seeing now? Are you seeing some inventory pick up? Because I know that one of the biggest issues was there just was no inventory. Are you starting to see inventory in both marketplaces pick up?
There is a little bit of buildup of inventory. And I think the key, even on both coasts, is if it's turnkey, it goes. Because today people they don't want to do any work. I mean, it's amazing.
Right.
They don't, but if let's say it's decent, it's not turnkey, but okay, maybe it needs some updating. That's the stuff that sits. And then of course,
Oh,
if it's a gut job, I mean, people will buy it, but it has to be the right price. And I mean, out here in California, these sellers are not going to, they're not going to, fire sale anything. Because of course there's value in the land, there's value in the view. I mean, if it has a view, it's still holding its value to a certain degree.
sure.
Obviously, if it has a view, but it needs a ton of work, then it's not going to get quite, up here. I mean, obviously there was a lot of aspirational asking prices going on
Oh, yes.
everywhere. Now in Northeast Florida, I still see some crazy things. I mean, entire neighborhoods have been repriced completely. You
Wow.
used to be able to buy a home in a very popular master plan community, let's say in the mid 4s to 5s, just a few years ago. Can't even touch that now. Your minimum entry point into that community is in the 7s,
Okay. Wow.
at
Yeah.
least, and that's
So
not
yeah,
going to
like you
get
said,
that
almost
much.
double. Wow.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Wow. Interesting. So what advice would you give people if they are thinking of a potential home in one of these marketplaces on, are there resources that you recommend them check out? What advice are you giving people right now as they're starting the search of potentially making a move to either Orange County or to Jacksonville area?
Well, the benefit looking in a market like this, I believe in sometimes doing the opposite of what the crowd was doing, right? When everybody's going right, turn left. Because before, you couldn't even have an at bat. I mean, all this craziness with sight unseen, and you're trying,
Oh my
people are trying
goodness.
to get a sense of the house with the agent doing this on the phone. I mean,
Oh
it's
yes.
very hard, right? No matter how much Google Earth you do, or the driving, you put the phone on your dash cam and you're showing
Right.
the street. So I think the biggest asset people have is they have the benefit of time and patience, because you can take your time and really, take some trips to the areas you want to be in.
Good.
Stay in the areas, rent a VRBO in maybe the communities you're thinking of, just to get a sense of the local flavor. And you don't have this ridiculous, crazy pressure of, the guns to your head, and you got to write an offer right now because
Right.
it went in MLS at 10 a.m. The reviewing offers at 5, and that's it. So, even though interest rates are higher, I think that kind of offsets the fact you have time, and also the fact, unlike just a short time ago, you would have had to go so far over asking price
I
and
know.
sacrifice all your rights in these offers.
Right.
And so really, even at a 3.5%, interest rate or whatever you were doing, 3.8, you're going way over the asking price. Balance that with, okay, yes, rates are higher, but now I can negotiate on a property and my rate
Right.
is higher, but you know what? It's probably 6.5 the other, and the seller's going to be more amenable to probably some things, some requests I have. However, the biggest thing, that sellers don't want to be dealing with in a market like this is uncertainty. So you have to give them the certainty you're going to get to the finish line.
Yes.
As as you know, with these interest rate movements, 1 week can cost that seller everything
Yes.
for being tied
Right.
up on the market, and a buyer then falls out. Now it's worse because the
Right.
interest rates are even more than before they went under contract. So
Right. Well, no, I agree with you. And I think I love how you say if some, everyone's going left, you go right. I agree. I feel like this is a good time to buy. And yes, rates are higher, but like you said, you have more time to assess the neighborhood and in the market and make sure you're not, getting into something you're not going to be happy with. And also, we've had success of, as you're negotiating with the seller, maybe you ask for a closing cost credit versus a reduction in price, and then you use that credit to go towards buying down your rate. And so then it's a
Right.
win-win. You're getting a home that you're not overpaying for, and you got a competitive rate because you're able to buy down your rate. So,
And a lot of people right now are going toward the adjustable rate mortgages. I just had somebody, out here in California, it was cheaper for them to do a 7-year adjustable rate. Actually, the rate was lower on that than a 5-year. And you know what their attitude is? They'll refinance when the rates come down.
right.
So that you just kind of have to adjust with what the best options are for you right now. 30-year fixed is not that. There's nothing wrong with, there's a lot of creative financing options. And like you said, the rate buy down is a great solution. There's a lot of lenders now coming out with like a 2-1 buy down. So you can buy your rate down,
Yes.
you,
Yes,
so you can enjoy that. And that just buys you time until you can
it
refinance.
does. Right. Now, you said something about your Jacksonville marketplace, about the neighborhood. One of them, the starter price point was 400, now it's 700. I have to say, it's surprising to me to even hear you could even still get something in Jacksonville around 700. I would expect it would have a one in front. So I think that's good for, our clientele to hear that. So what would you say, so you could get a home in your area for 700, and then I'm sure it goes up to multi-millions. Um, I guess, to paint a picture for anyone considering either marketplace, what would you say is close to, your average price point for a single family home? Um, and then maybe some characteristics of, if you like golfing and beach and et cetera, and this type of weather, this region would be great for you.
I mean, if you're going to be by the coast, and the coast tends to be where it's at, if you're going to live in the more coastal communities of Northeast Florida, you're going to pay a lot more for that.
Yeah,
Depending, the average price, and I'm averaging it,
I
you're going
know.
to probably be, around the 8 or 900,000 range.
Okay.
But really, you're going to have to probably spend over $1 million to be in an area, where you're going to have access to, some amenities. Um, we've had some interesting growth challenges in our area because a big part of life in Northeast Florida was beach clubs, country clubs, which is very popular in Florida. Well, you have a small area like Ponte Vedra Beach, and we have a few different versions of that, and they're all pretty much on wait lists.
Oh, they are.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, that's kind of what happens when, all these people kind of come running down. What's going to happen in the future? I don't know, but that has been a challenge. Although there's one gated community that when you live in there, you have an
Oh,
equity membership because
oh,
the
neat. That's
HOA
good.
and the club are one. So that community is doing really well
Good.
price point wise because people can just get everything that they want. They don't have to deal with wait lists. But certainly when you're coming down from New York and you are looking at a $2 million home, I mean, the expectation is you should be able to join a beach club and you should be able to have certain things.
Right.
And so that's been a little interesting. Now, obviously, if you go a little more inland, and St. Johns County is the top county for schools in Florida. It's
Good to
actually
hear.
long been ranked one of the top 67 counties in Florida. There's a lot of suburban planned unit developments. So when you get away from the ocean, if you start to get about 30 to 40 minutes inland, your prices are going to drop. You're still, I mean, depending, you don't get as much as you used to. So, in the fives,
Okay.
4 bedroom, 2 bath. There are new construction properties in a lot of planned communities, more inland, that you'll have all the amenities and the pools and the parks and those kinds of things.
That's neat. That's great. What about restaurants? So us, Chicagoans, we love our we love our food and restaurants. So how's the restaurant world in your Florida marketplace?
Well, the beaches has a very lively restaurant scene for sure. Uh, Ponte Vedra Beach, Jacksonville Beach, Neptune Beach, Atlantic Beach. There's all kinds of restaurants there. And then St. Augustine, which is about 30 minutes away, has a ton of really unique, fun boutique restaurants, that
Oh,
are
neat.
non-chains.
Sure.
And there's been a lot of new things that have come in over the last couple of years. So that's that's always a fun area because I always feel like when you go to St. Augustine, there's always some restaurant that you've heard about that you've never tried, and you're like, where is that exactly?
Wow.
So yeah, there's been a lot of new foodie things that have come on the scene there for sure.
Wow. Well, let's shift over to your Orange County marketplace. And I have a feeling the price points are going to be a little bit higher.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, I am going to brag on Cara a little bit. She does write for Realtor.com and different national publications, and I see a lot of what you are writing on, and average value and what's selling. And I mean, we're looking at 20 million, et cetera. But I'd love to hear, a starter home in Orange County. What would you say is potentially accessible there on price point?
Starter and low, like 1.2, 1.3, although that price
Okay.
point, again, by the coast, it's tougher. If you go more inland, it gets a little warmer. You can be more in the eights,
Okay.
uh, eights or nines, but by the coast, it's almost like, the 1.1 to 1.3 price point, that's kind of all run away. That kind of took off after June of last year. I mean, I kind of watched it. I had some
Yeah.
clients in that price range. Certain neighborhoods they had been eyeing, they got priced out of very quickly and had to pivot to something else. Um, you're getting about 2,000 to 2,200 square feet. That's going to be a 3-bedroom, most likely 2.5 bath. Not a huge yard, but in California, it's all about the lifestyle, not about the square footage
Agreed.
for most
Right.
of us. Except, I mean, yes, there's a lot of exceptions to that.
Yes.
And the luxury market, I mean, there's right now there's a lot that's kind of sitting in that 3 million to $6-7 million bucket. Certainly, interest rates have affected that. People's
Sure.
confidence in the market affects that. But we've had some crazy record breaking luxury sales in the, 38 million range.
Right.
It just keeps still not quite on par with LA, but there's luxury, and there's luxury, depending
Agreed.
on what level. So, a $5
Exactly.
million house that you might think is luxuries, it's not the same as the $38 million home that has the special leather walls, and
Oh, right.
everything is beyond state of the art that you have never seen before, and you need, like, there's no way you could even know how to turn on a light in those kinds of
Right.
houses.
Right. You need a staff just to help
Yeah,
you run things in the
absolutely.
house. Yes, we sold some of those in La Jolla, so I'm quite familiar. Yes. So, one thing that you mentioned, I don't know, it made it includes something off, and I just wanted to ask you because this is a lot of people think of, well, maybe I'm not quite ready to move yet, but I would like to buy something in those regions. How is the Airbnb marketplace in both of these regions? And have you seen any restrictions lately starting to come into place?
Great question. Well, Northeast Florida, so yeah, very strong Airbnb VRBO market. You are going to be limited to your ability to do that based on where those opportunities are, because
Okay.
uh, most traditional communities with the homeowners association do not allow short-term rentals,
You
uh,
don't. So some of
except
these planned
for
communities won't do it. Okay.
no, no, most of those, and for understandable reasons.
Right.
I know, like, some of those in Ponte Vedra Beach, including the gated community I lived in, passed some short-term rental restrictions a couple of years ago that only allow people to do that during the Players Championship, which is the big golf tournament that
Sense.
is now
Right.
in March, so that you could rent the home out, I believe, for like 10 days around that tournament date,
That
because they do
season.
get golfers and caddies and media people. But
Sure.
for the opportunities that there are, uh, in some communities, condominiums, for example, very lucrative, extremely lucrative. If you can buy one of those units, it's more than going to pay for itself, because we have very limited inventory, and most people want to do short-term rentals by the coast. They're
Right.
not really renting inland
You're
so much.
right.
There are some investors I know that have bought, much less expensive properties. They're just non-HOA, kind of single family homes. They fixed them up in areas of town. And these are areas of town where you still can get a home, in the low 200s. They do rent
Wow.
those out, I guess, to students that or people that are affiliated with one of the universities we have, Jacksonville
Sure.
University. And they say they do really well. But, like anything, a lot of municipalities, counties, cities are putting the clamp down.
That's how we
Um,
are.
and it's kind of challenging. I know in Jacksonville Beach, which is the next beach town up from Ponte Vedra Beach, that is a lot of just neighborhoody streets,
Sure.
no HOA. And a lot of those properties have been snagged up by investors and our rentals.
Wow.
So
So there is some room, but some units. So before, if someone's thinking about an Airbnb, definitely get in touch with a professional like Cara to find out which areas can allow it, because we're seeing that in Chicago too. Areas, well, especially HOAs. Most HOAs do not
yeah,
allow the short term.
no.
Are you seeing that in Orange County as well?
So, Orange County, like a lot of California, they've always had regulations in place for this, right? So
Right.
every beach town, every community already has some sort of short-term rental ordinance.
Okay.
And it might depend on what zone you're in, but like, for example, in Dana Point, where I'm based, they are not, you had to have a license. You had to go permit.
Oh,
And they
when
were
you're an
not
owner, you have to have a license.
permit.
Okay.
Mhm. And you would just have to pay, and you'd have to agree to do an annual inspect, have them, I can come out and do an annual inspection. But they stopped issuing those in 2014. Um,
Oh,
and that was a
wow.
hot button issue. Um, and now that's not to say that was for anything that's like 7 days or less. You could rent 30 days or more without one.
Okay.
Uh, and, obviously that's to keep away a lot of the craziness. But there's this thing called the California Coastal Commission, which you might remember, that
Yes.
has jurisdiction over the coastal communities as far as saying there has to be a certain amount of affordable
Yes.
places for people that are visiting the area to stay in, besides the Montage Hotel in Laguna Beach that's,
Right.
$900 a night.
Right. Right.
There's not a lot of super affordable options. And, as much as I love the Waldorf Astoria, which is right across the street,
Yes.
their prices are like 800 a night. And honestly, there's a beautiful condo community right adjacent to that, in a gated community that's where I first bought when I, uh, we were
Started to.
starting, yeah, as a potential investment property, second home. I mean, you can rent there for a fraction, and you can walk to the Waldorf Astoria.
Oh, right.
So
Right.
you have to really, again, the devil's in the details. Don't just assume. You got to, really work with an agent. Go research those regulations on the city or the town's website you're thinking of. Look at, is it a special zone? Because you don't want to get caught with, sometimes they require your permit number to be on the listing.
On the actual, wow,
And they have like a third party that supposedly
it's
trolls these
monitoring.
things. And yeah, so
Now, we touched on restaurants in Florida, and knowing that the coastal has a lot of great ones. I mean, I think most people know this, but Orange County is known for excellent food. So
oh yeah.
you have options galore there. It's
It's
good for your
always
foodies.
something new. Oh yeah. I mean, there's, and you have the scenery to go along with your dinner.
Right.
So,
Well, what I do miss Southern California cuisine because it's healthier. Or at least I always thought though. So it's fresh fish. It's not like a fried fish. It's just so fresh.
they're very attuned to options, right? So everybody wants
Yes.
to have a gluten-free option, or we can make it
Yes.
however you want, or dairy-free. No, it is very fresh. And I think I like that they really, um, kind of gear their menu in a way. Now, of
Right.
course, if you want you can go to In-N-Out, Del
I
Taco and
mean,
stuff like
In-N-Out is definitely a place you
that.
need to stop if you're
Yes.
visiting. Yes. I love it. Okay, so now we'll do just a quick round robin is usually how I end it at the end, and just or actually a rapid fire, I guess is
Okay.
more the right word. And I'll ask you just a few questions about each marketplace, just first thing that comes to the top of your head, and then if there's anything else you wanted to share, we can share that before we sign off. But for Jacksonville, name your favorite restaurant.
Ooh. Uh, 11 South.
Okay. And then what about Orange County, favorite restaurant?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to pick. There's so many. I'll say Aveo.
Okay. uh, your favorite activity to do in the Jacksonville area?
Definitely the beach. It's all about the beach and playing tennis.
That's great. Is it the same in Orange County or anything else?
I love all the beautiful beach trails that we have here. So you can always find me on the Salt Creek Beach Trail.
Neat.
We're really exploring any of our amazing trails that you get to look out, just have this breathtaking scenery that you pinch yourself and say, is this really
Is this
real?
real? I remember traveling to Italy, and Italy's gorgeous. The coastline is obviously gorgeous, but there were times would look and say, "This reminds me of the California coastline." It's underrated. It is so beautiful.
Well, they do call this area the California Riviera.
Oh, well, then there you go.
No, a lot of the like the Europeans that come here, you'll hear, a lot of the people from France that, are familiar with Nice and the Côte d'Azur, because
Sure.
that's very similar with Saint-Tropez and Cannes and all that. This reminds them very much of that.
Wow. So, two other questions for your Jacksonville area. What's your favorite destination to drive to from Jacksonville? So on like a quick vacation.
Oh, Sea Island, Georgia.
Oh, I'm actually going there next
Are
weekend.
you?
I
Yeah, the
am.
Kelly
How random.
Cruise.
I've never been. I'm excited.
Oh, it's spectacular. It's absolutely
Good.
spectacular. Yeah.
I'm excited. Okay, good. I know a lot of Chicagoans like Sea Island, so that's great. How far of a drive is it? I'm just curious.
Oh, only 90 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Yeah.
so close.
So
Okay.
easy, and like Jekyll Island is right there, and yeah, it's kind of a Savannah. It's kind of a world
Yes.
away, but not so
That's
far. So,
neat. And then what about driving spot vacation that you like from Orange County?
the desert, going out to
Oh, me
La
too. Palm
Quinta and
Springs.
Palm Desert. Yeah,
Yes. I love it.
just not in the summer.
No, agreed. My now husband and I made the mistake. I mean, I don't know what we were thinking, but my birthday's in July, and he said, "I'm going to take you to the desert for your birthday," many years ago, and it was miserable. We were in the AC the whole time. Yes. But it's one of my favorite places as well. Okay, so last question. If you were not selling real estate, what would you be doing?
Okay, maybe this is wishful thinking. I would love to be a television commentator. I would love to, there's too much political commentators. Why don't we have real
Yes,
estate commentators?
I love
I
that
would,
idea.
my dream job would to have a show about real estate and do a lot of commentary and insight with a whole host of subject matter experts, talking about real estate, showcasing interesting and amazing properties, and just providing really good kind of, in the weeds consumer advice that people don't get from all those books about, how to make a million
I
buying and
love it.
selling real estate.
You would be the perfect candidate for it too. So I hope you do take off with that career. That would be amazing. That's awesome. Well, good. Well, thank you for joining me. And if there's anything else you want to share, let us know. And then I'll make sure everyone has your contact information. We'll share your social media information so everyone can follow you. And definitely look out for Cara. She does again have a lot of really neat articles that are also some really fun ones talking about celebrity properties that they're buying. And it's fun to watch what you're up to, Cara. So thank you. I truly appreciate you
Well,
taking
thank you
time to meet
so
with
much.
us.
This was a
Thank
lot of
you.
fun.